Well, hello internets, here we are. Little bit of a vlog for something that's been going around in my head once more. I guess it is what it is. It's part of life. And yeah, welcome to our vlog. So, here we go. Well, one thing you can pretty much count on in life is death and taxes and increase in the cost of living. As I mentioned in one of my previous vlogs, my rent increased by a certain amount. Now I know that amount doesn't seem to be much to most people, however, it might as well be 20 times as much if it's just plain not there to begin with. And of course my first response was, no, I'm gonna move. And after I nearly burnt my retinas out searching the internet for places that I could afford to live, you realize that where you are for this stage of your life is probably the better place to be. You know, I been kicking around the idea now for a few years now to move out to the west coast of Canada. And that still might happen. That still might be something in my future to pursue. However, for this fall and next summer, I'm here, you know. I ended up signing another lease, of course, because, you know, what's a guy gonna do, right? And you realize that you can't live in your RV here because winters get really cold. And room and board accommodations for the winter months, a lot of these room and board places don't allow a dog because, well, you know, dogs are filthy, right? You know, and there's should be certain exceptions for service dogs and stuff like that, but even still, some of these room and board places won't allow animals, period. And hey, you know, whatever, right? I don't like paying rent every month. However, it works out to be the same whether you spend 12 years living in a house paying your mortgage payment just to walk away, or to pay rent every month on an apartment and every year have the opportunity to move. I turned down jobs because I had the mortgage, and those jobs required me, or would have required me, to relocate somewhere else. I turned down jobs because I had a family, and that would have required the family to have moved, or me to have left my family behind and went somewhere else to work. You know, in hindsight, maybe that would have been the better option to have, you know, moved years ago. But I chose to stay around here, and well, the choices we make, you know, affect us eventually. I have cut back on some of my expenses. I disconnected my cable because that was an expense that I didn't need to have. When times were good, you could afford to carry something that you don't use very often. Whether it's, you know, this cable service, or whether it's buying stuff you don't really need, you just buy for the purpose of buying. You know, cutting back on the quality of food you eat sometimes comes back to cause you more harm than good. But at the same time, if you plain and simple can't afford it, then you have to downgrade to lesser brand names just to save a dollar or two. You know, not going on epic, expensive road trips for camping and stuff, rather than renting a stall for 3 or 4 or 5 days and going camping is still cheaper than those big road trips. You know, sometimes letting go of a hobby, you kind of have to do that to balance everything out. Sometimes changing directions in a person's life is a good thing if you are willing to make the change. There's a few things in life that you can't do without. You can sometimes juggle paying your bills for a month or so, maybe 2 if you give them a little bit just to keep them quiet. But eventually they get worked up, and then that causes other problems. You know, I mentioned this in other videos about my editing software, cameras and computers. You know, using your old camera for longer than you normally would have just to save money sometimes works out to be a good idea, rather than spending, you know, a bunch of money buying new clothes. Try to get a little longer out of your old ones, even though they're starting to get dirty, starting to get dark, grungy. Even when you do wash them and clean them, they don't seem to come clean. Not sure if it's the water in this apartment complex, or, well, just the way the clothes are. You know, you have to make time for the little things and enjoy what's in front of you and around you. Enjoy the free things in life that don't cost money, rather than putting out money paying something to happen for you to have enjoyment. You know, way back, I spent money, bought things, did things, treated people around me very, very well, when really maybe I shouldn't have been overindulging and over spending on people around me, because in the end, those people that had their hand out when times were good were not there for me when I came calling asking for help when my world was falling apart. You have to sit down and work things out, budget out your month, realizing that if you spend $120 on groceries, that's $20 less you have for a bill, or fuel for the truck. You might have to not drive as much this month, or, you know, things like that. There's a solution to every problem if you're willing to compromise. There is compromises to be made around every corner, if you're willing to see those compromises and those changes that are needing to be made. I know I've learned a lot in the last few years about pulling the plug and not hanging on for far too long, and trying to decide, you know, if I should disconnect my cable after almost 20 years of being faithful and paying the bill every month. Wasn't an easy choice, but sometimes hard choices need to be made for the greater good of the future, so things can work out and get back on track eventually. That's the thing about life. Life is full of choices. Life is full of decisions. Life is full of adventures. Life is full of things if we are willing and able to see what's right here in front of us. Sometimes things work out, and sometimes we can understand why things happen, And sometimes we don't know why suddenly the landlord makes a rent increase when really the quality of living in the complex hasn't improved much over the last year or two. However, you have to realize from the landlord's standpoint, the landlord has increases in their expenses. With this fire that went on, the tenant insurance has gone up. I think it was like $10. With the fire that went on, the complex's insurance had gone up because they had to pay for the damages and then go fight with the tenant individual insurances to get things back. And you know, they're just trying to run a business for profit, of course. They're trying to maintain their buildings as best as they can, whether it's painting the hallways, changing the carpets, changing out the old school exterior doors for you know, newer style, stronger exterior doors, and you know, dealing with tenants that vandalize and break things when they're moving out must be an ongoing battle for some of these large apartment complexes. But just a few things that I got rattling around in my brain that I thought that I would bring out and share. I guess it is what it is, and around we go. Thanks for watching Maxwell's Vlogs. Comment, subscribe, and enjoy.